So tonight we are presenting Carrie Wilson. We've known Carrie for a long time. She's always done credit for us. She used to work at one of the big banks here in Dothan, so she's got a lot of experience. And now she's the CEO of R.I.S.E, which is a very important philanthropic type of organization. Anyway, so what we like to do now, the Entrepreneurship Council, as some of you know, has been around since 2010 in one form or another. We came up with the name around 2014, Entrepreneurship Council. Prior to that was the Entrepreneurship Group that was associated with the Dothan Economic Summit on Jobs, which of course was Mayor Mike Schmitz's idea to try to get us to recover from the Great Recession of 2000s. And then, so over time, we evolved and we still think the educational component of what we do in the Entrepreneurship Council is essential. And that is the monthly seminar. Sometimes we add another one, seminar/workshop, depending on how you look at it. And then opportunities to network, because entrepreneurs need to meet each other. And then unusual, unexpected, happy coincidences of resources occur. And oh, I know this, and you know that, or I have this, and you need that, and you'll always wind up with a basis then for creating an entrepreneurial kind of climate in your town. We always need three things. We need some kind of education going on, whether it's formal classes or some opportunity for people to learn something somehow having to do with entrepreneurship, with people who know about it, talking to people who are learning about it. That's the educational aspect of it. You need networking. People need to meet each other. You have opportunities for them to talk to each other. And then you need to have slack resources. In other words, people discover resources, spaces, equipment, whatever. It's not being used right now, but it could be. And then you get the interaction among the people, and all of a sudden you start getting a bunch of new entrepreneurial ventures in creation. Anyway, that's basically our history. And so anyway, without further ado, let's move on to Carrie Wilson. As we've known her forever, and she's been an expert at banking and stuff, so she's the best person to hear about credit from for the purposes of entrepreneurial venture.
Well, hi everyone. I'm Carrie Wilson. Thank you for the introduction, Richard. But I just want to tell you just a little bit of my background and why I'm here as the CEO of R.I.S.E. I actually came from a banking background of about 11 years. Right at 11 years, I worked for the bigger banks, Wells Fargo, BBVA companies, and then BBVA companies got bought out by PNC. Was branch manager for like almost 9 years of my banking career. And during that tenure, you know, the things I learned in addition to my own additional research, because sometimes you have to do extensive research. I'm the type of person that's inquisitive. So if I don't understand something, I ask more questions. And I came from the cell phone company. I was just talking to Miss Dorothy and Jacob about working for Altel, the cell phone company back then. So I actually transitioned from a cell phone sales to banking. Never been in banking, and I became the entry level was a banker. So never been in that type of setting. And so one of the things I excelled at very quickly was credit. And that's because I'm inquisitive. So when the underwriter would turn down my client, my customers, I was like, why? And so essentially those whys turned into approved applications. So I basically started learning how the credit process worked at that point. And then I did extensive research to understand how the mechanism of it worked and everything as well. So I didn't have to be an underwriter to fully understand, because I asked why. And then if I didn't understand, I asked why again, or what, you know. So that's kind of a background of my story and why I'm here. PNC, the branch that I was actually the branch manager of, it was the one by the mall, they closed. So they wanted to give me a less desired position and cut my pay. So I was like, okay, God, I see you. It's time to step out and help the community understand this, because a lot of times people landed in front of me that didn't have a grasp or understanding of finances in the time of need. And it was like my hand was tied. The only thing I can do is, you know, stir them about how we can actually fix where they may have went wrong. Because I couldn't stir them, you know, I couldn't send them to somebody else that you may get approved for this bank because they're not as strict as the bigger bank. Because of course that was against the rules. Now I don't have any rules per se, other than honesty, integrity, and instilling in people like you all, and you all instilling to me as well, I'm always learning from my audience also. So you never get too, too advanced ahead to not to grow and understand and learn things as well. So I thank y'all for coming this evening. Thank y'all for having me. R.I.S.E do me reach individual success through empowerment. And what we do is we empower the youth in the underserved communities with the knowledge, tools, and resources to help them be financially independent through financial literacy, career advancement, entrepreneurship development, mental health awareness. And in first day, we still service people that's not in the underserved communities. These workshops is always free. Bank Royce and I have been partnered for a long time, like Dr. Voss said, for a long, long time. So when I was in the banking industry, I used to do the workshops for him as well. So we've got to develop a great partnership, and apparently they trust me because they keep calling me back. So what I'm saying is, it works. So y'all can stop me at any time to ask any questions. I do talk kind of fast, but I try to pay attention to it to slow down. So if y'all say, just Carrie, slow down, or go back and say that again, just let me know. All right, so this is the roadmap to understanding credit. So a lot of you all probably know what credit is. It's made up of your report scores and how lenders see you, really. It's not just lenders. We all know that utility companies look at your credit, insurance companies, some jobs that you go apply for, they look at your credit. It ties back to your honesty and integrity, but they don't look at, you may make a mistake or you didn't understand it. They don't look at that. They just feel like, okay, if you borrowed something and you didn't pay it back or you had some blemishes on there, you didn't keep your end of the deal, sometimes they look at you as untrustworthy, but that's not true. So it doesn't define you as well. But how to get credit, we'll talk about that, building it from scratch or repairing it. How to use credit, funding growth and smart utilization, and protect while you build, maintaining and safeguarding your credit. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So the first topic is, what is credit? So credit is lenders in other industries, like I said, the companies in the ability to repay what you borrowed from them as far as lenders. Credit is measured by a credit score. And I don't know if you all knew this, but your credit score ranges from 300 to 850. So your minimum credit score could be 300 and the highest is 850. And you probably say, we're here about business credit. However, if any of you have experience, like owning a business and trying to obtain credit for it, you'll quickly find out that your personal credit has to help you get the business credit in a lot of instances. It is some business loans out there that they use just business credit, but we will talk about building the business credit. But this is the foundation of everything, is getting healthy personal credit, because they try you as a personal guarantee. So, and then of course, documented in a credit report, your financial track record. It affects loans, rentals, insurance, and even job offers, like we talked about. Now, I typically put a chart in these, but this is here how we got it as far as what makes up your credit score. Who all thought just paying your bills on time was your credit score only? Do everybody know that's not just okay? So I like to still break this down, because like I said, a lot of times we actually are teaching youth in these workshops. So essentially, we break it down, but a lot of adults, you'll be surprised that think just by paying your bills on time you're going to have a good credit score, but that's not the truth. So 35%. So from 300 to 850, who can tell me the point difference between 3 and 850? How many points if you subtract that? 550, right? So you got a 550 point difference in between that. Now, a lot of people was like, I thought you said the lowest credit score was 300. Well, the lowest credit score is NA. So essentially, you can't have, it's not going to say 0. So I'm still right on the lowest credit score. It's going to say NA, you have none at all. Not applicable. So, like somebody that's fresh out of high school, 19, shouldn't have anything on their credit unless somebody stole their identity or something. Because age of majority in Alabama, you normally can't start signing contracts until you're 19. You don't even supposed to get a bank account by yourself until you're 19. But some of the banks actually, the bankers are not aware of that, or it may get through the system, and so you may see some 18-year-old without a bank account unless they've been emancipated. But that 550 point difference, payment history is the biggest portion of it. So 35% of 550 is 192.5 points. So you can get up to 192.5 points of that 550 missing points by paying your bills on time. What's the definition to you all of paying the bill on time? If anybody want to take a chance at it, what you feel like paying your bills on time mean to you? A miracle. What does it mean to you by paying? What's the definition of paying your bills on time to you? On the due date, right? Okay. But did you know from a credit history standpoint, it's 30. Long as you pay it 30 calendar days before it's 30 calendar days late, it won't affect your credit. Technically, yes. As long as you pay it before 30 calendar days, yes, before 30 calendar days, so 29 days. So essentially, what that means is you can be 10 days late and you may get a late fee. But you get a late fee internally. The only time it impacts your credit reports is if you 29 days, 30 days or under, 29 days or under. That 29 days or under, because you don't want to let it hit day 30. Because once it hits day 30, it's gonna hit your credit. And you have to be aware of how many days in the previous month, because just because your bill was due on the 15th of May, if you wait until June the 14th, you just hit day 30. It's June the 13th because it was 31 days in May. I think I'm right, yeah. So you follow what I'm saying? Yeah. And I'm not telling you get in the habit of doing that. Of course, a great practice is to pay it on time or before time, right? But what I'm telling you is a lot of people sat across me in banking that didn't understand that concept. So guess what they say? I missed this payment last month. I'm going to double up on my next due date because it's already on my credit. And it wasn't. They didn't know. And so it drops your score drastically when you miss it past 30 days or later. The next biggest one is the utilization of your credit on your revolving account. Anybody know what revolving means? Like what kind of trade lines are revolving accounts with credit? Credit cards, yep. Credit cards, line of credits. Have you ever went to the furniture store and they say you approved for $4,000? That's a line of credit. They may not give you a credit card to it, but it's a line. They allow you to do $4,000. You only use $2,000. You got $2,000 more to use. Well, up to 165 points make up to that 550 point difference that I just told you. So that's the second highest amount that you can make up your points. So essentially, you would probably think that, okay, if I got a $3,000 credit line, I just went over $1,500, so I just used 50% of that. It's gonna drop my score. It don't go by just that one account alone. So if you got several other credit cards where you got another $3,000, you just spent $1,500. You're under that 30% at that point because you didn't hit 2,000. You follow what I'm saying? So you take the total amount of limits of revolving accounts you got and the total amount of balances you got on those revolving accounts, and you want that to stay under 30% as a whole. So a lot of people get mixed up with that too because they think that I don't max out this credit card, but they didn't realize they had 3 or 4 other credit cards that doesn't have a balance on it, and technically you're not over that 30%. So now you just need to work on that one balance on that one credit card or credit account. So they can make up to 165 points. You heard me saying up to. So don't go out there and think if you pay your bills on time or get your credit cards on 30%, you're going to get 165 points. It's up to that. So, but you will see a drastic increase by following what I'm talking about. The third thing is the lengthy history. That's 15% of that 550, which is 82 up to 82.5 points. Lengthy history is often misunderstood as I've been had this credit card for 20 years. I should have 20 years of history. Doesn't go by that. It goes by how many open accounts you don't open. So if you ever heard of some personal loan companies out there, they'll call you in, you do a loan, and then 3 or 4 months later they be like, hey, you got this balance that you can come back in and get some more money. And what they're doing is they're closing off their history of their old loan and they restart it up. So you just got another credit check. You just closed off that 4 months of payment history, you just had the other loan, and you restarted it up. So it impacted you with the inquiry, the new credit, and it just messed up your history because it does an average of how many accounts you keep opening throughout the year or the years. So they average it out. So it doesn't matter what's your oldest credit account. So that's up to 82.5 points of your missing 550 points. And the last two is 10%, which is 55 each. And that's a new credit, of course. Any inquiries, hard inquiries you get. Somebody check your credit. It depends on how many times they check it across the 3 credit bureaus. It drops your score, average about 3 points per credit pool. And then mix the credit. They look for you to have a diverse amount of credit because that shows that you have a maturity of being able to maintain multiple credit mix. So you got cards, which is revolving. You got loans, which is installments. And that makes up the last 65 points. So if you add up all those points, you'll come up with 550 of the difference of the missing points. So that's why there's people like, I want an 850 credit score. Well, that's the roadmap to getting an 850 credit score. But it's not as easy as you think because you have to have all of it. It all have to work in together. In my banking career, I might have seen maybe one or two people with an 850. You know, I've seen 840 somethings and stuff like that, but it's rarely ever you see somebody just get the 850. And then you'll have people say, they'll say, my credit score is 900, so I know like there's no way your credit score is 900. So anyway, that's what makes us a credit. Does anybody have any questions on this? Okay. The length of history is, so say for instance, you had a credit card that you don't had over for 10 years, but in between that 10 years, you don't got a car loan, you got a consolidation loan, you don't open up a few credit cards, you don't have 10 years of history anymore. They average it up. Now, I don't know the algorithm of the average, but they average it up based off the amount of accounts and how often you don't open them, and they go by your history on that as far as the length of history. So if you keep opening up accounts and applying for loans and you getting the approved form, it's not only impacting for the new credit, it impacts your history as well. So that's why it's not good to keep opening up new accounts.
Or the three
major credit
experience being the other
TransUnion, Equifax, Experian.
Equifax. Why is one predominantly used for this was equal whatever?
Yeah, so why do some lenders use one more than other? And why the score is different?
Right.
So, okay, that's a good question. So and that's why it's good to know where you are. And now, you see where it says the FICO model is used by 90% of lenders? So you got, Credit Karma, which gives you a Vantage 3.0. That's not your actual score that when you go to the bank for a loan, when you go to a bank for a car loan, your credit score is going to be different because they use a different FICO score model than what they do for a house. But to answer your question, some banks may check Experian. Some banks may check Equifax. They may check TransUnion. You want to ask the lending institution which credit bureau they're going to check. And I always tell people to know where you are, so whenever you get ready to qualify for a loan, ask them what's your qualifications. What's your standard credit score? What's the highest credit score you got to be? Because those credit scores can be different because the new credit, they don't check you when you go, unless you get in the house, they're not going to check all three. This bank going to check TransUnion. Well, if you get TransUnion pull more than Equifax and Experian, that drops your score almost 3 points every inquiry. So TransUnion score is going to be lower than the other two. And then also, a lot of people don't know that creditors pay to report to the credit bureaus. So you may have XYZ financial institution that's only going to report to TransUnion and Equifax, but not Experian. So your score is going to be inconsistent because you don't have their history, because it's not reporting to all three. So it's always good too to when you're choosing your lender options to see if they're going to report to the credit bureau, because if your goal is to build your credit, you want to see if they're going to report to all three, because you want that positive trade line to impact all three credit bureaus. Okay, you're welcome. Any other questions?
Seems like over the years, when I have something credit that I need to get off of that.
Mm-hmm.
But it constantly holds on it. But it's never been on the other.
Same thing, like they may want to, they probably only paying to report to Equifax, and they don't want to report to the other two. Or if it's been there over 7 years, you most definitely want to dispute it because of the length of it. Now, if you start making payment plans back with them, that 7 years don't count. So it goes 7 years from the last payment you made, and they charge it off. So when that company charges off, like Capital One, they charge it off on May 30th of 2026. It's going to start 7 years from the day that they charge it off, not the day of your last payment when they charged it off, because that was the last activity. But now you have to watch it, because the collection agencies that pick up the account, they'll take and start the timeline when they bought the account, and that's not correct either. So that's inaccurate. So what makes credit repair totally, something that you can do? Because a lot of people think credit repair is just bogus. You can't, if you owe it, you owe it. No, it's because of the Fair Credit Reporting Act. It allows you to report inaccurate information on your credit report, and there's a possibility it can get deleted off. But when you dispute it, you don't want to start out by pointing the error out. You want to start out asking them to validate the account. Because if you go and tell a creditor, oh, you got this date wrong, my last payment was on this date, guess what they're going to do? Go update it and correct it. So the only thing you do with your first letter is ask them to validate the account and let them figure out what's incorrect on those credit bureaus. And then if you got receipts of the last payment you made was May 30th, but they got it reported April the 12th, and when it comes back saying that it remains the same, it's going to stay on your credit, everything is accurate, you can send that receipt in with the dispute letter saying under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, I asked them to verify this account. It came back as everything was totally accurate, remains the same. Now I want you to delete it. It does sound easy. That it's still not easy. You still kind of have to fight. It's just like when you're trying to get approved for your Social Security disability or something like that. You know how you have to dispute it, or if you got let go from a job and you try to get your unemployment, they may deny you the first time, but you go back and dispute it and show proper information. Then sometimes you have to kind of keep on being persistent with it, because it's not, the credit bureau is wanting to continue to get that money, so they're not going to just willingly delete it off, or they'll try to act like they ignored your letters or didn't see them or something. Okay, any other questions? All right, so how to get credit. We're going to talk about building from scratch. I don't talk about a little bit of repairing damaged credit and business credit. So if you have no credit history with, like I said, I'm always trying to teach these classes as if, you may not have experience. So I always just try to make sure that if you don't know, you have the tools and resources to be able to tell somebody else too. You may not have learned and need to tell somebody else. But you can get a secured credit card. I don't know if any of you guys heard of secured credit cards that you can get with your institution. That's where you take your money, you save it, and you put it in an account. And then they actually put it onto that secured credit card. And that, I was telling you about that 30%, stay under that 30%. And if you pay a credit card in full on or before the due date, anything that you put on it, you got interest free. You got a credit builder loan. Same thing, a lot of credit unions offer credit builder loans. You put some money in the savings account, they take it out, they do you a loan, they turn around and give it back to you. They may charge you a small fee, but you can start making payments to start building your credit on that loan. The only thing is, the misperception of this sometimes is that people think because it's their own money, they're not going to pay no interest, they're not going to pay no late fees or nothing like that. No, they treat it just like a credit product, like you use their money. Because that's the thing, to be able to report it to the credit bureaus as a credit product, you're going to have the same rules and regulations. And sometimes you may pay a little less interest rate for paying your money. That's the incentive if you use your own money, but it's still going to be some interest charges and late payments if you miss. You can also become an authorized user. I will make sure I do a trusted family member or friend with doing this. Like even your younger kids, at 15 years old, you can add your grandkids or your kids or something on your credit card that you're keeping under that 30% as an authorized user. You can start building their credit before they even know what credit can establish credit as an authorized user, because the authorized user is not obligated to pay the debt back. You just put their name and date of birth and stuff on there, and anytime you want to take it off, you can take it off. Anytime you want to put it back on, you can put it back on. And that helps build their credit so they can give them a good start in life. So they can start out with almost a close to 800 score as soon as they, get where they can actually start using credit. Store retail credit cards, they're easier to get approved for store and retail cards. So use small purchases only, then pay it off monthly for those and make sure it's effective. So those are ways you can start credit from zero. And that's from a personal standpoint. But this is the personal versus business credit. So, of course, personal credit is used from your Social Security numbers, but business credit is used from an EIN number. Now, somebody in this room was trying to start a business, inspired to start a business here. So, I'm sure you may be familiar with EIN's employer identification number, which is the same thing as the Social Security number. Now, you go to R.I.S.E.gov and get it for free. So, if you get ready to start a business, make sure you get with myself, McRoyce, and Entrepreneurship Council guide you through how to do a business effectively. don't get on there and pay for these services that you can actually set up for free. It's in organizations out here can guide you through that to be able to set everything up. Because a lot of times you may run across somebody like, I'll charge you such and such, set up your EIN, your LLC, and all that stuff. One of these organizations will walk you right through it. But you always have to be careful when you go to establish your EIN and your LLC to make sure you're on the right website as well. If it gets started saying that you're going to pay something, you don't hit the wrong Google, because sometimes they do the Google algorithm, they put themselves at the front of it, and you end up paying thinking you're on the right site and you're not. So then personal credit, we talked about the 300 to 850. Well, you got a business credit score too with 0 to 100 with Dun and Bradstreet, and you got Experian business and Equifax business. So your credit score for a business is 0 to 100. A good credit score of business is going to range up about 80, around 80 points, an 80 credit score. Personal credit affects personal loans, cars, and houses. And then business credit affects business loans, vendor terms, and contracts. So sometimes if you don't have good established business credit, you may not can get vendor terms with like a vending company. Like say for instance, if you wanted to start the clothing business that you got, and you want to establish a relationship with the vendor company to get you the shirts and hat at a real good rate, they may use a pull on the business credit to see. So I'm gonna show you how to establish business credit as well. So they may want to do a business, and those ones are those non-traditional lenders that sometimes don't have to use your personal credit tied to it. They'll look for business credit to start those vendor credits. So it's important to know that. And then personal credit is built through personal accounts, and business is built through business accounts and trade lines. So from your LLC corporation, get an EIN, open a business account, and apply for a Duns and Bradstreet number for free as well. So Duns and Bradstreet is something that you're not familiar with, probably haven't heard of. It's 3 major credit bureaus with a business as well. And that's Duns and Bradstreet, Equifax business, and Experian business. So a LLC, if you decide to establish an LLC, ma'am, back here, Secretary of State of Alabama, if it's going to be established in Alabama, or whatever whatever state you're in, is the Secretary of State. Just make sure you're on the right one. So your start, before you do an EIN, you want to search to make sure nobody got that business name before you establish an EIN, because when you get ready to establish an EIN, it's going to ask you for that business name. You don't want to establish an EIN with a business name that's already taken.
I worked at a postscript today. Just West Ellis and Secretary of State. He continued.
Sorry, I'm having trouble hearing. Could you repeat that?
Okay. West Ellis and Secretary of State. John Merrill, continuation. You can have a name registration of your company for $10, and it's good for 3 or 4 years. Nobody in the Alabama can have your company. Very valuable. It's one of the best $10.
Yeah. So you can reserve the name first, and in the reservation of the name, and hold until you're ready to set up the LLC. But it's all done right there on the Secretary of State. And you can actually get your LLC before you do the EIN. You just want to make sure the name is not taken. Got a question?
In the bank, I had different accounts. Personal business, because I was paying
Okay.
number. But the bank since then has closed my account.
So you can call the IRS and with the business name. Do you remember the business name? Okay. But even if you establish an account with an EIN for that bank, they should have tied you to the account as a signer, which would have tied your Social Security number to it as well. So you're given that Social Security number should also find it. But you said the bank is closed. Oh, okay. So you maybe have some funds. I don't know how long they hold funds in Alabama. But yeah, so basically you can search and see if you got anybody know the site in here? It's something where you can search unclaimed, Alabama unclaimed funds, So this is why Kobe, it's got to be sitting in an account in Alabama as unclaimed funds. And you know what? you know, one time I remember seeing something on Facebook, people was actually going in there and there was some unclaimed funds. It may be small, but it may be some unclaimed funds for stuff out there, Alabama unclaimed funds. All right. Any other questions?
It's done.
It's attached to Alabama.
It's done in Bradstreet's records open to the public if you want to research your company to see what their credit number is.
No, I don't think it's just like your personal credit. I don't like now if it's your company, you can go
No,
in.
I mean for a competitor.
I'm pretty sure you have to have some type of lending thing to be able to pull the credit of that business, just like the personal. They have to pull the credit for the Dun and Bradstreet Street, so you have to have some type of credit.
I have another stupid question. I was blessed to have a trust fund that matured. My grandfather set up for me, 13, 14. Matured at 25. So one of the investments in my trust fund was a chemical bank of New York. And then I would bonds. But Wells Fargo had bought me a $10,000 bond, and I wanted to mature. I wanted the card. I wanted to cash it out and say, here, fine. And then 2 weeks later, I got a credit card approved from Chemical Bank of New York. Chase. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Chase. And they said $5,000 or so line of credit. I had just finished graduate school at Auburn, and I didn't know if because I finished at Auburn, was that the reason I got this, or was the fact that my trust fund had stocks. And I was wondering if that's a possibility. Can you buy stocks in credit card companies, and have that as a perk or a benefit of being able to get a credit card?
So you probably was a victim of some of the stuff that I seen going on when I worked for Wells Fargo, where they made it deceive you and then apply for a credit card when you called and get those stocks cashed in. You might have encountered somebody that was unethical and applied for a credit card without your permission.
It was entirely without my permission. I remember getting the letter and the card the same day.
I remember when I worked in Wells Fargo, I ain't gonna name any banker's name, but you know when Wells Fargo got on the news, all that stuff in California they had, and you know a lot of it wasn't really going on locally as far as that I knew as far as the unauthorized accounts. But I remember one banker that kept getting complaints and coming in, and they were saying that he said, "Oh, this is a debit card." It was a credit card, and they was using it thinking it was like a debit card. It was crazy. And I don't even think he even got reported. I think he even still worked with him, but it's just crazy.
I had somebody do that.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and I did report her, and
he got fired. I'm telling you, and he got reported so many times.
She's a manager at one of the ones down in Florida.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't understand how, you know, like I was like I couldn't even sleep. My conscience couldn't. I couldn't take it. But yeah.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
With business credit, I know it's somehow tied to our personal credit, but with the EIN number, how am I going to get started with the business credit, building credit for my business without me?
So we're finna go to that, and the business credit is not tied to your personal credit. It just it's more opportunity to get lending in business in your business name because they're using you as a personal guarantor. So they tied it to qualify for you to loan, but it's not the same. They don't use your social security number and EIN don't merge. It's still separate. So when you do establish a business credit, it's going to report just to the EIN. It's only going to show that you did an inquiry to establish the business loan, but once the business loan is established, it don't report on your personal credit. It only reports on your business credit. Yeah.
You don't want your personal business.
Yes. And that's the purpose of the LLC, to spend that extra money, because the LLC is a limited liability company. So it protects you in a way to where if somebody sues you, they only can get your business, just sue your business, they can get the business asset and not touch your personal asset because it's not entwined. But if you're a sole proprietor, then they can come out after the whole. Yep. All right, so this is building business credit. So 5 steps to business credit blueprint. So establish your business credit foundation. We've talked about a little bit about this, form an LLC or a corporation, not a sole proprietor. And the reason why you want to do not a sole proprietor is because as a sole proprietor, you can still have an EIN, but when you go to a bank, they look at you as the same, just like you were just saying. Even though they don't intertwine your stuff, they look at you the same. But some banks require you to use your social security number, not your EIN, even if you got an EIN as a sole proprietor. Now that does connect them. Mm-hmm. Typically PNC is, yep, because they know the benefit of separating. But now with the sole proprietor, some banks will require you to use your social security number even if you got an EIN. So make sure you get your EIN to IRS.gov. It's free 10 minutes. Now the IRS.gov, if you try to go on there after a certain time at night, it's going to be closed just like business hours. I can't remember what the hours are, but they only have their system open for a certain amount of hours to do that, a window to open to get the EIN. It is a little later in the night, but if you get on there at like 10 o'clock, I doubt you get it. I can't remember what the cutoff time is. It's been a while since I helped somebody establish it. And in the, late past the time, because it's not going to give you a warning. So you register your business with the credit bureaus. Now, this is an important thing too. You can go ahead and register your business once you get your EIN to the business credit bureau, especially Duns and Bradstreet. So you just have to go and set up a Duns and Bradstreet account. So, go on Duns and Bradstreet. So dnb.com is free. And you can go ahead and register your business. And this is how you can establish business credit. This is the non-traditional trade lines that you can go ahead and establish the business credit with. It's called Net 30 vendor accounts. Trade lines. These are when I say non-traditional, that means it's not just your typical lending institution like banks and stuff like that. So you start with the easy approval with these. I don't know if any business owners in here that get those little magazines that says Uline. That's the one I get the most. Uline that has all these supplies and stuff you can buy out of it. Quail, Granger, and Crown Office is similar. I've heard of Home Depot and those would do like the non-traditional trade lines. Now I can't attest to, the Home Depot and Lowe's, but I've heard some people say that they'll use your EIN to get you the non-traditional trade lines without checking your personal credit to get it. So you make a check with them. But the Uline, how it works is, in the rest of these other ones that's listed, I'm sure, I'm more familiar with Uline. How it works is you order supplies off of their catalog. At first, they'll still open you a trade line with the EIN. But at first, until they trust you, you got to pay for it up front, but they still report it to your business credit with the Duns and Bradstreet. You have to have a Duns and Bradstreet number because it's going to give you a number when you register your account, a Duns and Bradstreet number to be able to report to it. Eventually, they'll start giving you things on the line of credit. Items ordered on the line of credit. When they see you don't order so many orders and you pay for them up front, then they'll start establishing your line of credit. And that's how you can build business credit without tying your personal to it at first. Now, that does help with banks like PNC. Because the good thing I like with some of the banks, they go by relationship banking. In addition to, they take your business and your personal credit and they come up with their own internal algorithm score with all of those things tied together. Relationship, you bank with them. How much you keep in there. You don't do overdrafts, balances. Then they look at you don't establish business credit and your personal credit. So then your personal credit score don't have to be as high to establish a loan. So that's the benefit, because you probably was like, well, if I don't use my personal credit anyway, what's the benefit of that? That's the benefit of it, because you can still build a business credit without the personal, and it can benefit you with some banks to where they actually have their own internal algorithm. Don't tell them I told you that, because they used to tell us not to tell folks. But anyway, that's another thing that you feel like it can't be open. Oh, it's fine. Apply for a business credit card. So after you establish stuff, apply for business credit cards is the easiest thing to get. It's 0 time in business. So 0 time in business, you can get a business credit card as long as you got strong personal credit. Because they're still going to tie you as a personal grantor. every lending institution is different. One may tell you 680, one may tell you 740. So it's always good to know. You remember I was telling you, know your credit score, and you like I said, Credit Karma give you Advantage 3.0. So that's not a true credit score. If you want to try to get a true credit score, you have to go directly to the source. Like Experian.com, you can set up a free account and they'll give you a free credit score. TransUnion and Equifax, I don't know if they have any free things. I think one of them did. I stumbled on one of them did, but there's one of them that you have to pay. But they do have FICO, like credit credit monitoring services. One of them is FICO, and it gives you your true FICO scores with all three. And in that FICO, and I can't remember I know I'm not saying it's something FICO. But the thing I like about them, they give you your credit score, like if you wanted a car loan, if you want a house loan. You remember how I told you that can be different because you got FICO 9 is the most commonly used for credit cards and loans. But with the car, I want to say it's FICO 5, and with a house, I can't remember what FICO number it is. But the algorithms for those credit products are different. And that if you will Google credit monitoring service that's called FICO something, if you sign up for that, it's like $30 a month. You'll get your true FICO score with all different lending products. But I always tell people, if you take care of the health of your credit, it's just like your body. If you take care of your insides, you put it right so the inside is going to display on the outside. Same thing with credit scores. If you go by what I was telling you about a healthy credit score, your credit report, your credit score going to bloom. Okay? Monitor and build your business credit score. Check Dun Bradstreet Paydebt score, which is another one. Target is 8+ score. Like I said, a good credit score with business is 80+. That's what they call Dun and Bradstreet. Bradstreet is a Paydebt score. Monitor at nav.com. That's a free business credit monitor. Nav.com. Now, I haven't never checked out nav.com, but you can go to Dun and Bradstreet and it'll give you your credit score right there on Dun and Bradstreet. Any question on this slide? Do y'all want me to sing and dance? Y'all seem like y'all about to get sleepy. All right, so your business credit timeline, what to expect month by month. So one, you want to set the foundation. So you want this. Chris, you said? Chris, okay. So the first thing, set the foundation. We've talked about establish your LLC if you're going to be an LLC. Get your EIN. Open business bank account and register for your Dun & Bradstreet number. So this is the steps. Within 1 to 2 months, you want to apply for some type of trade lines with a vendor. You'll start getting those books. Like I said, Uline and Granger, I think I've got books, catalogs of them. But you can always look up their number and call them too and answer. And score begins, building from the Paydebt score appears in its consistent early, doing the payment, the algorithm that y'all seen for the personal credit, you want to follow the same guidelines with business credit, and that'll help you build a strong business credit. And then you want to, about 5 to 6 months, you can apply for a business credit card. But honestly, if you got a strong personal score, you can apply for a business credit card 0 days in business. That's what we always said in banking. 0 days in business, you can apply for a business credit card. But keep the utilization under 30, just like on the personal side. And then within 6 to 12 months, you can apply for a business line of credit. Now, you got SBA that's got a lot of different loan options out there that's more flexible sometimes than banking. So you want to get with your SBA representative. It's Julia, I forget her name, in Troy University. They give you guidance on websites and everything free. Yes, so Dr. Boss can tell you more about how to reach her. But next month. So she's gonna be the speaker next month. Y'all see on the front. So y'all make sure y'all come see her about the SBA lending, because sometimes it does have some flexibility in the SBA lending space than they do. And some banks do have SBA lending departments as well. So they have a team of SBA lending departments that help them to, help you get qualified. And with that relationship with the bank and the SBA lending department, that helps out too. But you can go straight to SBA yourself. But when she's here next month, that's an awesome service. They started my website out. We don't have to revamp since then, but they started it. If they didn't start it, I would have paid a lot more for somebody to just build it from scratch. And it's free. So they got free services and stuff. They awesome. And then you can start unlocking major capital within 1 to 2 years. Typically 2 years. They want like banks, stuff like that. They want you at least about 2 years in business. And the reason being, you know, on the average, they say, you know, about the first 3 years is going to determine whether you're going to survive or not in business. That's just the honest truth. So a lot of happy medium with the banks is 2 years with the bigger banks. Now, when I tell you get your relationship with your hometown bank, a commercial, you know, like a not a commercial bank. Well, I guess you would call it. Credit union still a little bit more stricter than the hometown banks, like the People South and the Headland Nationals and the I don't know. I'm sure some more out there. What's it called? A Smart Bank is probably like I don't know if it's a credit union. Smart Bank is a credit union. But you know, it's another one that I can't remember down here on 84. But you know, you wanna. Yeah, all in credit unions are good, but you know those, like I said, those ones that's like the hometown bank, they're smaller, they're not big, they're not up under a lot of more criteria for the bigger banks. They up under a lot of more microscope with the government. They have to keep everything consistent. But those smaller banks can actually go by understanding the community and all that stuff and personal relationships. They still have to be careful. People South, Headland Nationals, the River, yep, Troy, and it's right down there on 84, where right across from Publix and all of that. It's on the left. I can't remember. That's a credit union. That's a credit union. But getting good with some commercial banks. I don't know if y'all ever heard of that, but getting good with those smaller commercial banks.
Can you have a secure credit card in the name of a business?
Yes. Yep.
And that would help your business.
Absolutely.
Okay. Just like it would be your personal account.
Right. Now, I can tell y'all that a lot of banks are scaling back on line of credits. And the security cards are not offered everywhere. So you have to make sure you develop a relationship with the right bank. Because some banks don't even offer business accounts, or they may only offer a business account. If you're trying to build like lending and all that stuff, you want to get a bank that can build to you as you grow. So that's another thing too. So know who you banking with. Any other questions? Okay. And then we got how to use credit, funding, partnerships, business growth, and smart utilization. So we talked about the SBA loans, business line of credits, which is getting to be a thing of the past. They kind of become obsolete, but equipment financing. So you do have equipment financing out there. Like, say for instance, if you're a lawn care company and you need, you know, those big 360 turn lawn mowers and stuff like that, you can do equipment loans with some bank on the business side instead of using your personal credit. And it all requires, you know, pretty decent credit. A 680 score plus opens dramatically better rate. So if you 680 above, you'll start getting a better rate, you know, opportunity there. 720 is about the next, you know, jump. And vendor and trade lines, you know, we talked about the net 30 accounts and suppliers, build business credit, and see your cash flow. So get the three to five active trade lines. If you get just one account, that doesn't show lenders how responsible you are with credit, because they was like, anything, you know, if you only got one task you can do, how easy that is. But when you got 3 or 4 different things you got going on and you can manage them all, that shows your ability to be more experienced with things. That's the same thing they look at with credit stuff. Real estate expansion, you got commercial, you know, options out there with investment properties and all that stuff, better scores and better terms. And then you got 0% interest leverage. So, you know, always look for, like, if you're just needing just a small loan, let's say if you say I just need $5,000 to start, leverage the 0% interest rate for 21 months, or, you know, some of those things out there. Don't just go out there and get a loan and have to pay, you know, interest right back, and then just pace yourself to get it paid off in that 21 months. Look at your payments and say, hey, $5,000 over 21 months. What payments I got to make per month, and that may be manageable for you. And then another thing that I always tell clients, you know, like a month or 2 before it get ready to hit that 0% mark, if you haven't paid the balance to the desired amount and you don't think it's going to get paid off, check for another opportunity for a 0% and then balance transfer it. You know, you can actually keep putting yourself in a position to where you're not just got a big overhead and overwhelmed in debt by doing it strategically like that as well. So that's how you can put it to work. And the utilization rules, we don't talk about the 30%, you know, maximum. The more towards 10% you get, if you get a credit card and don't use it at all, that's not going to help you out any. You know how I told you that up to 165, you open up a credit card and just let it sit there, it's going to eventually just mill out. It's not going to work for you. You got to put some type of thing, it's nothing but 5% on there and pay it off. So this is just giving you an example of how to keep your balance down on that 30%. Pay down before your statement closing date. So this is an important one right here. So a lot of people look at that, I need to pay this balance. You know, like say for instance, you had to make a big purchase and it put you over the 30% utilization. And you was like, dang it, I can't get this paid off by my due date, but I can get it paid off within 3 days after my due date. It's gonna hurt my credit score. Well, it don't until your statement closing date. And typically that's anywhere from like 5 to 7 days after your due date. So statement closing date is when your statement actually, that's when it reports to your credit and everything. So if you on your credit cards, it's a different rule, but I always tell people still go by that 30 days and all that stuff, but it don't post those balances until your statement closing date. So, you know, your due date and statement closing date is two different things. You can also request credit limit increase without increasing spending. So if you're trying to get the utilization under 30% and you find it hard to pay it down, you can call in and say, hey, you know, I want to request a credit limit increase, and increasing that credit limit and not putting no more balance on it brings that utilization down. You follow what I'm saying? Okay. It spreads spending across multiple cards to lower per card utilization, which that doesn't matter. Like I was telling you, like if you combined it, it's going to work the same difference. But, you know, the benefit of that is you want to, if you were spreading or something like that, you want to make sure you're not putting things on a higher interest rate card when you got a 0%. You know, if I got a 0% offer, I'll put it on the 0% and you know, figure out how to tackle that because you don't have to pay any interest. And then set up auto payment for at least your minimum payment so you won't miss a payment. You know, auto payment, a lot of us in this room know is effective and it helps you keep on track. Any questions?
I set up an auto pay. I paid for some auto pay, hoping that my credit would, you know it's going to be okay, but I want to be okay. Was that not a reason for it to rise?
No.
Paying those on time?
Paying on time is just the biggest perk of, you know, keeping your bills paying on time is, you know, they're up to 192.5. But because a lot of people always like, pay your bills before time, pay more on it. It doesn't matter. All it do if you pay more on it, you're going to pay it off quicker. That's it. If it's an installment loan. Same thing with it's the utilization of the credit card. Those big two components I was telling you about. Paying it on time is helping you. But if you already been paying on time for 5 years straight, you know, your credit score going to only keep going up so much. It's just going to stay consistent. So you may need to look at your utilization if you got some revolving accounts and stuff to see if you can reduce that some more to see it go up. So if you're not to where you want to be, it's some other things you may need to check out. Make sure you're not checking your credit, you know, a lot. I'm not sure with you getting ready to start a business if you've been kind of running your credit to have cash flow or something like that. Just check all those checks and balances that way. So some other things you need to look at because that's not paying it on time is not going to keep increasing. Dropped it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to watch those car dealerships. They'll kill your credit.
One certain level when I started out, I was also told the fact that if the creditors know that you're in search of a car, that those inquiries last like 45-day period and it didn't continue to drop. If the inquiries came in.
They only changed that rule on home. If you're looking for a home purchase, I can't remember. As a realtor that I'm very close, I can't remember what she said today. If you check your credit within 30 days or something, it don't impact the score. But with car shopping, it doesn't. I can tell you I've bought plenty of cars, and so the things that I found out is you go in there and talk to the actual finance manager and say, hey, I know what my credit score is. Which credit bureau you use? What's the top two? No more than 3 banks that you use that can give me the best interest rate. Don't be shopping my rate out. Because I'm going to tell you, what I found out is those finance managers in the car lots and car dealerships, they actually earn money off of the lender that they put you with. So sometimes, some people, and it's not the dealerships, it's the people. So some people and stuff that's working in those positions, they may feel like I'd rather get more money in my pocket than saving my customer 2% off their interest. So this lender may be gonna give them 2% less, but I'm gonna give them this lender because that 2% more gonna put more into my pocket. Yeah. So some people don't have good intentions. I'm not saying all of them because I was a sales rep out there, and I know I always had good intentions. That's why good always come back to you. I always tell people you don't want to have a short-term gain because the long-term impact can be detrimental. But if you have long-term, you look at long-term and you develop relationships, trust, to be honest with people, give them their options and let them make sound decisions, you can sleep good at night. Just like I was saying with the people, putting people in credit cards with, and they don't supposed to. It's just, you just got to be careful how you treat people. It's just evident. I'm pretty sure all of us don't live long enough to know that. And always protect what you build. So maintaining and safeguarding your credit long term, you want to protect it. And maintain and protect your credit by checking your reports regularly. Like I was telling y'all, the annualcreditreport.com, I don't really like it as much, but it is a way to get your free credit reports. You can get it once a year for free, and that's the way you can get it through. But if you do, I always tell people use Credit Karma. That's going to give you Equifax and Experian just for the accuracy of the credit report. Don't go by it for the credit score. And Experian.com going to give you a free one. So that means you can monitor it monthly, and you can get alerts if something happened that you know. So therefore, you go a year later, and then somebody don't put something on your credit, and you didn't know it, and you went to go buy something, and somebody got a whole, whatever in your name, and you didn't even know it. Some people don't have houses in their name, utilities, never lived in the state, and all that stuff. Dispute errors immediately. So errors affect 1 in 5 credit reports. Dispute online or by certified mail. I always say mail. Bureaus must respond within 30 days to dispute. Because they always try to act like they don't get them, so sending it in the mail is going to be more of a, physical evidence that you send off. Freeze your credit when you need it. If it seems like somebody don't open some unauthorized account, freeze your credit to prevent from being, other accounts from being over your name, and unfreeze it when you're applying for credit. So I would recommend freezing it if you feel like you don't been a victim of identity theft, honestly, because this could be a hassle if you're trying to apply for something and you need to apply for it quickly. You got to call the credit bureau, or unless you got an app like that FICO app. I don't remember the name of it, but because I use the free stuff, honestly, because I go by the credit report. But you can go on there and lock and unlock your stuff on some of those credit monitoring apps. And don't close old accounts unless they're paid off. So this is important. You know how I was telling y'all about the length of credit? Some people I've seen a lot of times I got in trouble with this credit card. When I got it paid off, I closed them all. That kills the history of your credit. Just leave them open. Do what you need to do. Some people talk about they'll freeze it in the freezer with a block of ice and all this stuff. But you want to still have some type of activity on it, because what's going to happen is, after about a year or so, they're going to close it if you don't use it to keep the fraud, from happening on it as well. So, and keep learning and monitoring. Just don't let your learning stop here. I only can cover so much in, an hour or two. So don't stop learning here. Follow, we got free workshops all the time. Matt Ross and them got free, they got diverse workshops. We typically teach on financial literacy and stuff, but they got very diverse workshops. It's other organizations out here that got workshops, because this workshop can be different from another one that I hold too. So just keep that in mind. You may learn some of the same things, but you may learn something different in different workshops, and people have different questions. So always, be learning and monitoring and stay informed, because knowledge is protection when it comes down to your credit. And this is the action plan for you in the next 7 days, the things that you can do. For one, I most definitely, if you haven't encourage you to pull your free credit report. You can do annualcreditreport.com. You don't have to really do it tonight, because I don't know if people want to do it tonight, but if you do, that's where you can start it. Set up a new credit, build an account if you don't have any credit, and separate personal and business credit. If you already commingling your stuff, you want to make sure you separate it, because in banking, I've seen that a lot. You can't even determine your profit and loss if you actually commingling your personal and your business finances without keeping up with it. It's just better to just do it in one account, and you'll know your profit and loss when it comes down to your business. You know if it's if it's going or you need to change something to make it, because you're not gaining as much as you want or whatever. So it's very important. All right.
I just want to touch on, I know next month we're going to have a finance seminar. So this is homework for you guys. Everybody here that is intending to go to the next seminar, definitely number 1 and 2, go ahead and start doing that. As far as pulling your credit, knowing what it is, because when you step in there, we're going to have people in there talking about lending options. One of the questions she'll tell you most banks are going to want to know is, what is your credit score?
Mm-hmm.
So if you could go ahead and get that information when you come to the next one, you'll be better prepared to just kind of speak with them on what lending options are available. You'll know where you are. It won't be a guessing situation. I got to go back home and check on it type of situation where they need to help you. You already have that information. That's one of the reasons why we have this one before we have the finance one, because that's one of the things out of the financial agent asking. Do you know what your credit score is?
Yep. Thank you for that ad. And this is the thing with our website, risealabama.org, and the phone number. I just realized I was out of cards, but I gave McRoss passed out the gala cards to you all with my information on there. I hope you guys can attend the gala. It was very phenomenal last year. Richard, Roger, and McRoss was there. Even though we was tired, it turned out to be very nice, and we're expecting for it to be nicer this year, and it's going to be about impact and transformation. So to give you information on where R.I.S.E is trying to go right now, we do free workshops in the communities in the different cities. We go around city to city. So if you follow us on Facebook, on social media, if we're actively on Facebook, it's R.I.S.E Alabama. And but our next phase is moving to one-on-one mentorship programs for low-income families and trying to gain access into the schools where it's really needed for these youth to understand credit and budgeting sooner than later. So we're doing some great things in communities. We love your support. Like I said, check us out on the website, social media platform, Facebook. And I think that's all I have. Do you all have any other questions for me? Okay.
Carrie, if you would, just kind of reiterate, what you do as far as the nonprofit, and just let them know that they can get at some of these functions or on a one-on-one basis.
Okay.
Because I think, I know you mentioned philanthropy. So he does have a business side, but the organization R.I.S.E is more of a nonprofit. It is a nonprofit. It's a 501c.
Yeah. So what R.I.S.E does again is we empower the youth in the communities with the knowledge, tools, and resources to help them be financially independent through the financial literacy workshops, which entails getting them to understand budgeting, credit, and how to set themselves up financially. And also we actually have career advancements to where when we start doing the one-on-one, we're going to actually work with individuals to help them build resumes, more professional resumes, interview skills, teaching them how to search for jobs actively, how to market themselves, because just like marketing a business, that's another class for another day. Just like marketing a business, you have to market yourself. You're looking for employment as well. And you have to understand how to transfer your experiences from one job to one that's higher paying instead of being stuck. Because sometimes our community and we get stuck in the mindset and think we can't do nothing else because we've been doing this for so long. Well, it's transferable skills in this business that you can transfer to this one. We do have entrepreneurship development where we help, when our one-on-one, we help people with developing business plans, giving them the roadmap to setting up the business from the EIN, the LLC, whatever entity they want to entity type, and ensuring we following through about how that plan is going in their growth process, where we can help it. And then we have a mental health awareness space of it. We have a component for mental health awareness because it's much needed, because when people struggle with finances and all that stuff, it affects them mentally, especially with our youth. They have so much that they're exposed to with the internet and stuff like that. So we create, when we create spaces, we do workshops to create spaces where they can be open to speak up about things they may be having challenges and people among them. We don't did a couple of youth workshops, we not speak for youth, but when we get our financial center, we're gonna have one that Ozark Housing Authority will be allowing us to use once they get everything taken care of as far as the updates and stuff. That's where we'll have a secure space to start having more one-on-one mentorships, and we'll do different groups of people like single moms, single dads, or somebody cancer people, like people that struggle with cancer or whatever. We have different mental group sessions, and so it'll be more consistent. because we'll have our own space and we won't have to ask, to use space and to do it more often. So that's where the nonprofit is going. And our big vision is to build a R.I.S.E Empowerment Center is what we're going to call it. It's called a R.I.S.E Empowerment Center, where we're going to actually be housing all this more consistent workshops and being able to do the one-on-one coaching with the community, because it's much needed in this environment, today's environment. So we really appreciate your support. Support looks like volunteering, helping. Sharif has poured a lot of time in our organization with coaching the coach. I've learned a lot from him. It can be in-kind donations, attending the events that we have. All of that goes back into fueling the stuff that we're trying to increase in the area. And to make Roy's point, I do have a consulting side, as Carrie was a consultant, to where, so R.I.S.E is the education side. So as long as you want to see them be educated and we teach you and guide you on how to, that's what R.I.S.E for. But if you say, I don't want to do it, I need to hire somebody, or you're not going to fit in that low income space and we do the one-on-one mentorship program, Carrie was a consultant, sit down, and there's a charge, there's a service charge for that part. So you just say, listen, I ain't got time to be doing this, I just rather pay somebody. That's what Carrie was a consultant do. So the ways you get in touch with the two is R.I.S.E number is here on the screen. And then Carrie was a consultant is 334-733-6836. 6836. And you don't have to call the difference in the numbers, but that just kind of help me keep them separate. But if you call one and you just have a question about the other one, and sometimes the conversation leads from one to the other one. Somebody called my Carrie was a consultant. I was like, come to the R.I.S.E workshop. Or either I'll educate people all day on the phone. I say, listen, you can do this yourself. I'm telling you, I'll be begging people to do it themselves. Because my thing is, it's just like biblical. If you give them a fish, they're going to eat for once. If you teach them how to fish, they'll eat for a lifetime. And so my whole ultimate goal is to teach our community how to fish. Amen. So they can eat for the rest of their life. Thank y'all so much.
Sponsored by Computer Printing, etc.